Questions to Julius Malema, the president of the EFF. Tony asks Julius, how will the EFF be managing our fishing harbours and the fishing industry for the benefit of the previously disadvantaged communities in the Western Cape?
To be the ones that are given fishing permits and then be able to establish their own companies and sell to multinational companies. This thing that you've got one big multinational company dominating the fishing industry in the Western Cape must come to an end. Our people are going to be empowered and will open markets for them internationally and locally to make sure that whatever they are fishing gets to be sold to some people in the country and the world.
Wahid asks, I'm looking for an alternative to both the ANC and the DA, but how can I trust the EFF when they appear to flip-flop between issues constantly? Example, Mr. Malema defending Jacob Zuma, then actively worked to oust him, now appears to be back on his side with his new party. I want consistency in principles, and why should I trust the EFF?
But there's no flip-flopping on Jacob Zuma. Remember, you were there in Parliament when we were removing Jacob Zuma. We said this is the most corrupt government. But now, Stats has confirmed that actually there's been more corruption under Ramaphosa than Zuma. That Ramaphosa is the only president who was found with stashed money under the mattresses and under the sofas. And that Ramaphosa collected millions of monies from big private capital in the name of CR17. So I'm not defending Zuma. I'm saying in comparison, we thought we were in a worse situation under Zuma, and it looks like we're in a much, much more worse situation now. The unemployment has extremely increased under Ramaphosa compared to Zuma. The economy has been declining under Ramaphosa, and the levels of crime in the Western Cape and all over South Africa under Ramaphosa have extremely increased. So, and when I say that, it doesn't mean I favor Zuma. I'm just comparing the two terms.
But to fight crime, you say in your manifesto you want to employ an additional 100,000 police officers by 2016. South Africa already has something like 115,000 police officers. You want to double that. We have one of the highest per capita police to citizen ratios in the world. It's clearly been shown that more police officers does not necessarily signal a decrease in crime in this country.
Well, we need more men on the grounds because we need to combat this crime, and it should be done within the shortest space of time. And you need police leadership. So let's take Western Cape, for instance. The problem is that you'll find majority of station commissioners involved with these gangsters who are going around extorting people and taking monies from people and sharing that money with the police. So you need a complete overhaul of the police system in the Western Cape. If it means sending them out of the Western Cape and bringing people from KZN, Eastern Cape, Limpopo into Western Cape to fight gangsterism, to fight drugs, let's do so.
You want to give bonuses for police officers arresting dangerous criminals. That's monetizing. That's monetizing what should be a function, a general function and duty for all police officers. But you say in your manifesto, bonuses for police officers arresting dangerous criminals.
Everyone who performs well everywhere, there is what we call performance bonuses. And that's what we're saying. Cash in transit haste. You're chasing most dangerous criminals who are carrying 5 million. And you know that even if I return this 5 million, I don't stand to get anything out of this. Why should I take this kind of risk if it's not going to be compensated? When you arrest those criminals, they've got 5 million, they offer you 2 million, and you get tempted to take it because police officers are not paid enough to fight dangerous criminals, including investigation. We need to investigate. Police who investigate successfully, because police arrest, then the case gets messed up by investigating officer. If you investigate successfully and that case is properly prosecuted, there must be bonuses for such.
Let's go to a question on the voice note line, 0725671567.
Yes, morning, Lester. Flores here from Booster again. I would like to ask Juju there, morning, Julius. What's your stance on the current school matric pass rate? Any chance when you come into governing this beautiful country of ours that you will do something about the state of education? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let me add another message here. Should politicians, should office bearers be forced to use public services, include public hospitals and public schools? Are your children in public schools?
They are not in public schools because there are no public schools. The ANC has collapsed the education system. And you cannot say to me, Mr. Malema, you are now in parliament, go to a public hospital that is dysfunctional. You are actually asking me to commit suicide. So we need to, as the
But
EFF...
80% of South Africans rely on a public health service. If we are to feel empathy to those who making use of crumbling public services, then surely we should have the people making the decisions also not just having empathy, but actually experiencing that themselves.
No, you can't ask me in the name of empathy that I must commit suicide so that I can rescue 80%. I have to be alive so that I can take over this government and correct those hospitals. And under the EFF government, which will be having decision-making powers, we are now going to force you to use public hospitals because those hospitals will be functional, those schools will be functional. And as part of our commitment to education, it must be free, it must be of quality, it must be decolonized, and we want mathematics to be compulsory in schools because we want our children to learn the necessary skills. Verwoerd said, what will a black child do with mathematics? And therefore denied us that opportunity. So we need to take it back and teach our children that which were denied.
But largely, and the statistics and the methodology that's used, that the more middle class people use public service, the greater investment. My wife and I, we live next door to a public school. Literally, we could throw our kid over the fence and then she lands.
Yeah.
We have taken a decision to use and go to a public school. Fairly decently priced school fees. I understand my privilege of augmenting here and there, but I've decided as a South African, if I want a better service for all South Africans, as a middle class South African, I need to buy in. Why aren't more politicians doing the same?
No. You are so privileged to stay next to a public school that is functional. It's not the reality in Gugulethu.
No, it's the private school that's right next door. We take our child to a government school.
That's
which
what I'm
is a
saying.
further distance.
So you are one of the few privileged people who still have public schools that are functional. There are functional schools that are public that I know, but generally that is not the case. Okay. And it's not middle class that makes public education to be functional. It is the deliberate decision by government to ensure that public education must be functional.